November 1991. Montreux, Switzerland. A recording studio hidden in the Swiss Alps held a secret that would change music history forever. Freddie Mercury was dying, his body ravaged by AIDS, his voice still a weapon of pure power. But time was running out, and Freddie knew it. What the world didn't know was what he was recording in those final weeks. A song, not for himself, not for the fans, but for the three men who had stood beside him for 20 years. Brian May, Roger Taylor, John Deacon, his brothers, his family, his band. The song had no name yet, no lyrics, just a melody that Freddie hummed between coughing fits and medication rounds. A melody that would become Queen's salvation when they needed it most. This is the story of that song. The final gift. The one that saved Queen when the world thought they were finished. Mountain Studios in Montreux was Freddie's sanctuary. He'd bought it years earlier, transforming it into Queen's private creative fortress. Now, in late 1991, it had become something else entirely. A place to say goodbye. David Richards, Queen's longtime engineer, watched Freddie shuffle into the studio that cold November morning. The transformation was shocking. The man who once commanded stadiums with superhuman energy now needed help climbing 3 steps. But when Freddie sat at the piano, something changed. His fingers found the keys, and for a moment, the sickness disappeared. "David," Freddie said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I need you to record everything, everything, even if I can only do 1 take. Freddie, maybe we should wait until you're feeling." "There is no waiting." Freddie's eyes locked onto David's. "This is it. This is all the time I have." The melody that poured from that piano was unlike anything Freddie had written before. It wasn't the bombastic opera of Bohemian Rhapsody. It wasn't the stadium-shaking power of We Will Rock You. This was something else, something private, something that sounded like a man leaving a message for the people he loved most. Brian May arrived at the studio around noon. He hadn't been expecting a call. Queen wasn't officially working. They were giving Freddie time to rest, to fight, to survive. But when Brian walked into the control room and heard what was coming through the speakers, he stopped breathing. "What is this?" Brian asked David. "I don't know. He's been recording since 6 a.m. Won't tell me what it is. Just keep saying they'll know when they need it." Through the studio glass, Brian could see Freddie at the piano, frail, skeletal. But his fingers moved across the keys with the precision of a master craftsman building his final masterpiece. Brian picked up his guitar without being asked. If Freddie was recording, Queen was recording. That's how it had always been. That's how it would be until the end. By evening, Roger Taylor had arrived from England. John Deacon came from his home in Putney. No one had called them. They just knew. The way brothers know when something important is happening. The 4 men sat in the studio's lounge area. Tea. Silence. The weight of what they weren't saying pressing down on all of them. Freddie looked at his bandmates and smiled that famous smile. The one that had launched 1,000 magazine covers. But now it was different. Now it carried the weight of farewell. "Darlings," Freddie said, his voice hoarse but still carrying that theatrical warmth. "I have something to give you, but you can't hear it yet." "What do you mean we can't hear it?" Roger asked. "We just watched you record it." "No, you watched me start it, but it's not finished. And it won't be finished until—" Freddie paused. The unspoken truth hung in the air like smoke. "Until later. Much later." Brian leaned forward. "Freddie, what are you talking about?" Freddie reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small cassette tape. Handwritten on the label were 4 words. "When you need this." "This song," Freddie continued, "is my gift to you. But it's not for now. It's for when Queen needs saving. When the three of you don't know if you can continue, when the world has forgotten us or thinks we're finished. Freddie, John started to speak, but Freddie raised his hand. Listen to me, please. This is important. The room fell silent again. I've written this song for the three of you. The melody we recorded today is just the foundation. But I've left spaces. Spaces for Brian's guitar. Spaces for Roger's drums. Spaces for John's bass. Spaces for your voices. Because this song isn't mine. It's ours. It's Queen. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of the exclusive content that's coming up. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Freddie handed the cassette to Brian. Not to Roger, not to John. To Brian. The one he knew would protect it with his life. Brian, you're the keeper of this. You'll know when the time is right. The three of you will know. There will come a moment when Queen is facing something impossible. When you're being told to quit. When you think the music is over. That's when you play this tape. Brian held the cassette like it was made of glass. Freddie, I don't understand. Why can't we just... Because if you hear it now, it won't mean what it needs to mean. Freddie's eyes were fierce despite the frailty of his body. This song is a lifeline, but you can't use a lifeline until you're drowning. Roger stood up, pacing. This is crazy. You're talking like I'm dying? I am dying, Roger. We all know it. Let's not pretend anymore. The bluntness of it hit them like a physical blow. They'd been dancing around the truth for months. But here, in this moment, Freddie had torn away the veil. I don't have much time left, Freddie continued, his voice steady, despite the tears forming in his eyes. But I can give you this. One last song. One last piece of magic. Something to remind you why we started this band in the first place. John, always the quietest, finally spoke. What's the song about? Freddie smiled. It's about what we've always been about. The four of us. The impossible dream we somehow made real. The music we created from nothing. The brotherhood we built when the world said we'd never make it. It's about Queen. The real Queen. Not the hits or the fame or the stadiums. But the four boys who met in London and decided to change the world. David Richards had been listening from the control room doorway. He'd worked with Queen for 15 years, but he'd never heard Freddie speak like this. So vulnerable, so human. There's more, Freddie said, pulling out an envelope. Inside here are instructions. Not for now, for later, after I'm gone. These instructions tell you how to complete the song. Where my vocal parts end, where yours begin, how to weave it all together. But you have to promise me something, all three of you. Brian, Roger, and John leaned in. Promise me you won't open this envelope until you absolutely need to. Until Queen is facing the end. Until you're ready to give up. Because that's when this song will have power. That's when it will do what it's meant to do. The three men looked at each other. The weight of the promise was enormous, but they all knew they would keep it. We promise, Brian said, speaking for all of them. Freddie nodded, satisfied. Good. Now let's order some food and have a proper evening together. I'm tired of all this serious talk. But as they moved to the lounge, Brian caught Freddie's eye. A silent understanding passed between them. This was goodbye. They both knew it. And this song, this mysterious final gift, was Freddie's way of ensuring Queen would survive his death. November 24th, 1991. Freddie Mercury died at his home in London. The world mourned. But Brian, Roger, and John were destroyed. The funeral's private, intimate, just close friends and family. The media circus raged outside, but inside, three men said goodbye to their brother. Brian held the cassette tape in his jacket pocket throughout the ceremony. He could feel its weight, its presence, like Freddie was still there, waiting. But he didn't play it. None of them even mentioned it. They had made a promise. The weeks after Freddie's death were the darkest of their lives. The press speculated endlessly. Would Queen continue? Could they continue? Should they continue? The answer seemed obvious to everyone. No, Queen without Freddie Mercury wasn't Queen. It was like the Beatles without Lennon, Led Zeppelin without Plant. Some things just couldn't be replaced. Brian stopped playing guitar for 3 months. Roger couldn't listen to music at all. John retreated so far into himself that his family worried he might never come back. The cassette tape sat in a vault in Brian's home studio, untouched, waiting. 1992 came and went. Queen released no new music, made no public appearances. The world assumed they were done. Still nothing. The press wrote obituaries for the band. Queen is dead, the headlines read. Long live the memory. Brian, Roger, and John met occasionally. Dinners, quiet conversations, memories of their lost brother, but never about music, never about the band. The cassette remained sealed. Jim Beach, Queen's longtime manager, called an urgent meeting. The 3 surviving members gathered at his office in London, wondering what could be so important. Jim looked grim. "Gentlemen, I need to be frank with you. Queen is facing a crisis, a legal crisis." The room tensed. There are parties trying to claim that without Freddie, Queen's catalog should be divided up, that the band name should be dissolved. They're arguing that Queen was Freddie, and without him, the rest of you have no right to continue using the name or controlling the music. Brian stood up, furious. "That's insane. We built this band together, all 4 of us." "I know that, you know that, but legally, it's complicated. And if we don't fight this, we could lose everything. The name, the music, Freddie's legacy." Roger slammed his fist on the table. "So what do we do?" Jim looked at them carefully. "We have to prove that Queen still exists, that the band is viable, that you 3 can create music worthy of the Queen name. We have to release new music, and it has to be extraordinary." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. New music, without Freddie. The impossible task. John shook his head. "We can't. It wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be Queen." "If you don't," Jim said quietly, "someone else will own Queen. And they'll do whatever they want with Freddie's music, your music." The meeting ended in silence. No decisions, no answers, just the crushing weight of an impossible choice. That night, Brian sat in his home studio, staring at the vault where the cassette tape had sat for 3 years. Freddie's words echoed in his mind. "There will come a moment when Queen is facing something impossible, when you're being told to quit. When you think the music is over, that's when you play this tape." Was this that moment? Brian called Roger and John. "Come to my studio, tomorrow. It's time." They knew what he meant. They'd all been thinking it. The 3 men gathered in Brian's home studio on a gray London afternoon. The cassette tape sat on the mixing console like a sacred artifact. "Are we sure about this?" John asked. "What if it's not what we think? What if it doesn't help?" "Freddie knew," Roger said quietly. "He always knew. If he said this was for when we needed it most, then this is that moment." Brian picked up the cassette and held it for a long moment. 3 years. 3 years of waiting, of mourning, of wondering if they'd ever make music again. He slid the cassette into the player, pressed play, and Freddie's voice filled the room. Not singing, speaking. "Hello, my darlings. If you're hearing this, then I'm gone. And you're facing something that makes you think Queen is finished. I know you are, because that's what I told you. This is for when you need it most." The 3 men stood frozen, tears already streaming down their faces. Hearing Freddie's voice again was like being stabbed and hugged at the same time. I've thought a lot about what happens after I'm gone. Freddie's recorded voice continued, and I realized something important. Queen isn't me. It never was. Queen is the four of us, the magic we create together. And that magic doesn't die just because I do. This song I'm leaving you is unfinished, deliberately, because you three need to finish it. You need to add your voices, your instruments, your hearts. This is your song as much as it's mine. And when you release it, when you let the world hear it, it will prove something. That Queen survives, that the music continues, that brotherhood transcends death. There was a pause on the tape. The sound of Freddie taking a difficult breath. Don't be afraid. Don't doubt yourselves. You are Queen. You've always been Queen. I'm just the lucky bastard who got to sing with you. Now, my loves, I'm going to sing something for you. Listen carefully, feel it, and then make it ours one last time. The tape continued, and what came next was the most beautiful melody any of them had ever heard. Freddie's piano. His voice, weak but still powerful, still pure. Singing words they'd never heard before. Words about brotherhood, about music, about the eternal connection between four souls who change the world together. The song was only 3 minutes long, but in those 3 minutes, Freddie had poured everything he had left into one final masterpiece. When it ended, the three men sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Brian spoke. He was right. This is Queen. This is us. We have to finish it, Roger said. We have to complete what he started. John nodded. For the first time in 3 years, there was light in his eyes. Let's make Freddie proud. They opened the envelope Freddie had given them. Inside were detailed instructions, written in Freddie's distinctive handwriting, where each instrumental part should go, where Brian should add his guitar solo, where Roger's drums should build, where their backing vocals should weave together. And at the bottom of the last page, one final message. This is my gift to you. Use it to save Queen. Use it to remember why we did this. Use it to keep the music alive. I love you three more than you'll ever know. Now get to work, you lazy sods. FM. Through their tears, they laughed. That was so perfectly Freddie. The next 6 months were a blur of creativity, emotion, and healing. Brian, Roger, and John returned to Mountain Studios in Montreux, the same place where Freddie had recorded the original track. It felt right. It felt like coming home. They worked with David Richards, following Freddie's instructions precisely. Every note, every harmony, every musical decision that Freddie had mapped out for them. But something else happened too. As they worked on the song, they began to heal. The music brought them back to life, reminded them why they'd fallen in love with this crazy journey in the first place. Brian recorded his guitar solo in one take. 30 years of emotion poured into 6 notes. It was the most beautiful thing he'd ever played. Roger's drums built from nothing into a thunderous heartbeat, the pulse of Queen. Still alive, still strong. John's bass line wove through the melody like a conversation with Freddie's piano. 2 old friends speaking one last time, and their voices, the 3 of them singing together, filling the spaces Freddie had left for them, creating harmonies that proved Queen was more than one man. When they finally heard the completed song, they knew Freddie had been right. This was Queen. This was their salvation. This was the proof that the music would never die. They titled the song One Last Ride. It was perfect. Freddie's final journey with his brothers. Their last collaboration. The song that would save them all. Jim Beach heard the finished track and wept. This is it. This is what we need. This proves Queen is eternal. The legal challenges evaporated. When the lawyers heard what Brian, Roger, and John had created, When they understood the power of what Freddie had left behind, all arguments ceased. Queen wasn't dead. Queen was immortal. In 1995, One Last Ride was released as a single. The world had no idea of the story behind it. They just knew it was new Queen music. With Freddie's voice, with the classic Queen sound, it shot to #1 in 37 countries. But more importantly, it gave Brian, Roger, and John their purpose back. It reminded them that they weren't just Freddie's backup band. They were Queen. The tribute concert came next. Wembley Stadium, April 1996. Artists from around the world performing Queen songs in Freddie's honor. But the finale was different. Brian, Roger, and John took the stage alone. Just the three of them. And they performed One Last Ride with a recording of Freddie on the giant screens behind them. 72,000 people sang along. And in that moment, Freddie was there. His voice, his spirit, his love for the music and the fans and his brothers. Queen had been saved, just like Freddie said they would be. Years passed. Queen continued, not as a tribute act, not as a nostalgia show, but as a living, breathing force. Brian and Roger performed with Paul Rodgers, then with Adam Lambert, bringing Queen's music to new generations while honoring Freddie's memory. John Deacon retired from public life, choosing to remember Queen in his own private way. But he stayed connected to Brian and Roger. The brotherhood remained. The cassette tape that Freddie gave them that November night in Montreux is now in a museum, but copies exist. Brian has one, Roger has one, John has one. They've never spoken publicly about the full story of One Last Ride. The world knows it as a posthumous Freddie Mercury recording. But the truth is more beautiful, more profound. It was Freddie's final act of love, his way of ensuring that Queen would survive him, that his brothers would have the strength to continue, that the music would never die. In 2015, Brian gave an interview where he hinted at the truth. Freddie left us gifts, not just songs, but instructions, maps for how to continue without him. He knew we'd need help. He knew we'd doubt ourselves. So he made sure we'd have what we needed when the time came. The interviewer asked what Freddie's greatest gift was. Brian smiled. Belief. He gave us belief in ourselves, in each other, in Queen. That's a gift that never runs out. Today, Queen's music plays in every corner of the world. New fans discover them daily. The songs that Freddie, Brian, Roger, and John created together continue to inspire, to heal, to unite. And somewhere, in some cosmic recording studio, Freddie is smiling because his final gift worked. Queen survived. The music lives on. And the four boys who met in London and decided to change the world are still together. Not in body, but in every note, every song, every moment when someone hears Queen and feels something impossible become real. That's the true legacy of Freddie Mercury's final gift. Not a song, but the belief that brotherhood transcends death, that music is eternal, and that Queen will never die. As long as there's someone to sing the songs, as long as there's someone to remember, as long as there's someone who believes in the power of four souls united by music, Queen lives forever, and Freddie's final gift continues to save them every single day.